203. Do I hear a motion to adopt the agenda?
I will we adopt the agenda as presented.
Motion made and second. Those in favor?
Aye.
First item on for discussion and review is Lakeview Police Department transfer to Lake County Sheriff's Office. Who wants to start off with that?
Basically where we're at with that is we are talking with the sheriff's department. Nothing's been 100% decided at this point. We just wanted to mainly let you guys know that we are moving forward and trying to come up with a conclusion on what we need to do for the safety and security of the town. And really right now, the most important thing is to get police back on the street. And that's what we're working towards. It's going to take a while, but we will get it done, and hopefully sooner than later.
Mindy, you have anything to add?
No, that was a good summary of where we are at.
Okay, well, that's, Sheriff, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, the one thing I would add is this morning we had a meeting and we made strides and we have made advances that so far that are going in a positive direction. There's a couple stumbling blocks that we just have to get over the hurdles, and other than that, I think it's going to be expedited relatively quickly as opposed to farther on down the road. Like I say, we just got to make sure that everybody's happy with the contract. The town just can't enter into a contract willy-nilly. They gotta make sure all their bases are covered, they're happy with it, they're getting what they need out of it. Same with the sheriff's office, we gotta make sure that we're getting what we need out of it. They need to be happy, we need to be happy, and the citizens of Lakeview and Lake County need to be happy with it also.
Okay, Roberta, do you have anything to add? Okay.
Can we talk about timeline for the public, because I know a lot of people are really concerned about the process and how long we can kind of expect. I know that, let's say, a contract is reached, an agreement, there's a process that people don't really know about that needs to follow through timelines with lawyers and stuff.
I think maybe Kurt, if you want to address that, because you have dealt with these, mergers from one city to the county or whatever. Can you tell us how long it took?
Sure. My name's Kurt Chapman. I work with CIS, which is City County Insurance Services, the insurance trust for the majority of cities and counties here in Oregon. I specifically work with public safety agencies statewide from a standpoint of risk and human resources. And I'm very familiar with the town of Lakeview's police department and their history. And I have assisted other cities who make the decision to put out an RFP to contract for their services to be done by some other agency. It usually is the sheriff's office that ends up providing that. Very familiar with the city of Platskanai and their transition. Very familiar with the city of Amity and their transition, which just occurred. Amity made a decision, I think, probably midsummer of 2018, and they ended up going with Sheriff Svensson of Yamhill County, and they had an agreement in place and took over those duties effective 12/1 of 18. So, just generally, I think this is a good move, and I'm prepared, as Roberta knows and as Sheriff Taylor know. And by the way, they're both in the insurance trust. Both entities are. That I've been helping and able to assist as questions come up and those types of things to help move this forward.
So when she was asking for like a timeline, what, 4 months, 5 months?
I'm not in charge of the timeline.
That rate is hard to determine because once there's an agreement and we figure out a contract and we're 100% sure we're headed that way, it's gotta go to legal, and who knows how long it'll sit there. That'll be between the attorneys to decide what's good for the town, what's good for the county. It'll go back and forth, and once it gets out of legal, it'll go pretty quick.
Right.
But it just depends on how long it takes the attorneys to approve or disapprove the contract. Whatever verbiage has to be changed has to come back. Sheriff Taylor and the council has to sit back down and talk about it, make sure we all agree on everything, and then it has to go back to legal. So it's really, really difficult to put a timeline on exactly days, months, hours, what it's gonna take to do it.
Just, you know, mainly so the public knows that this doesn't just happen overnight, it could take a while. But even though, you know, what I think what's gonna help is where I appointed Scott and Sandy on a committee with Roberta to talk with the sheriff, and it kinda helps move things along a little faster and a little smoother, because then that way they can report back to the council during meetings, this is what's happening. And I think, instead of everybody being involved, I think it'll go a lot quicker and smoother.
I just wanted to make sure that the public's aware that we did not pass a motion until December 3rd to move forward with the transfer from the public, town police department to the sheriff's office. So I know it's been a lot of discussions, but until we had a firm commitment and a motion, I could not move forward with negotiating with the county. So I know it sounds like a long time, but that's the process. And I think with our meeting this morning and our meeting on Saturday with the committee, I think we've made major strides to get this in place. And like I say, we still do have to go through legal counsel. And then there's the fact that we need to transfer public, all of our everything, our police department and our everything in it over to the sheriff's office. So, that does take a little while.
And there's, and this is fictionally speaking, because we don't know for sure, there's a hiring process that takes, I don't know how long it takes you to hire people, but I would imagine there's a process that takes some time.
Well, that depends. If we advertise in-house, and when I mean county employees, we only have to post after 7 days. And we can, after 7 days, we get the applications put together, oral board process, go through the background checks. Usually if they're lateral transfers from other agencies, you don't go in that much depth on them, because any inappropriate action while they're a police officer or criminal misconduct is reported to DPSSD. Usually they're certified is revoked for misconduct such as that. So that's a lot different than if we have an entry-level person who doesn't have any experience. We advertise, if we go outside the town, we advertise for 30 to 45 days, allows people, and it goes on a number of different websites, as similar to, we'll put it on Lakeview announcements, Lakeview forum, because it seems that a lot of people monitor that. And then it goes on DPSST website, county website, so on and so forth. Laterals or entry level, like I say, is 30 days to 45 days of advertising, and then we get the applications, and then we go through that process. But the background investigations are a lot more thorough and intense, and takes somewhat a little bit more time than a lateral person. We do have, I'm just off the top of my head, we have 9 laterals from outside agencies interested in these positions here. And they're just kind of hovering right now, waiting to see where we're going to go with this contract. So if that's the case, and if we get them hired, they don't have to go through the academy. If those are the people that we choose to hire, they don't have to go through the academy, they've already been there. They'll more than likely probably go on the road with a training officer for 2 weeks or so, just if they're outside the area, to learn the geography, policy, nomenclature of our vehicles and so on and so forth. And then they're out on their own. We're up and running, turnkey, ready to go. entry-level person, you're going to have the academy for 4 months. Once we're able to get those hired people in there, and then after 4 months, it could be anywhere from a 3-month to 4-month training process where they're working together with another officer. And then we make a determination as to whether they're ready to go on the road. And then once they're ready to go on the road by themselves, we monitor them for another month or so, just their conduct, their abilities, safety issues, so on and so forth. And then once we're comfortable with that, we pretty much cut them loose and they're ready to go. They're all of them, everybody, lateral or entry level, subject to 18-month probation. And that probation period is to do evaluation, because I'll be the first to admit, you get some bad employees that are seeking employment elsewhere because they're in trouble with their agencies. So that gives us a latitude to monitor their abilities and their productivity and their conduct for that time frame. And if we decide to terminate at that point for cause, there's no appellate process that they get to go through. If they're on probation, they're terminated, and that's that.
And Sheriff Taylor, you do check to make sure that somebody's applying isn't on some kind of like a work plan or something like that.
That's part of our
Background check process.
That's generally covered in the background.
So you're able to or detect somebody, most of the people that are going to be that kind of problem, you're weeding out before they even come into a position, is that correct?
That is true. And we see that more so from tenured employees from another department. Somebody who's got 20 years on, 25 years on, they're seeking to come to Lake County or Lakeview for employment. Well, why are they getting ready to leave that department after that much time on and coming someplace else? And what we see more often than not is they're looking for a place to roost. They don't want to necessarily be part of the community, and they just want some place to retire. They're in trouble here, so they want to come here and start fresh and work 4 to 5 more years to retire, and down the road they go. So somebody with that tenure on, yes, we do an extensive interview with their supervisors and the sheriff or their chief of police or whatever. Those that are the people that are going to be probably more productive than others are those who are from this area, go else and get hired someplace else, but want to come back to home. They want to work here, they want to live here, they've got a commitment to the community, and they want to retire here in the community. Those are probably your most productive people that live us.
I'd also like to add that a background check, even for a lateral transfer, is far more in-depth than anything, those of you that work in the private sector. This is not a reference check. This is a thorough examination of the person's life, literally from high school forward. Most background checks begin with what's called a statement of personal history, which is 23 to 27 pages. And you are asked about every place you've lived, every place you went to school, your roommates, all of your past marriages, in-laws, friends, references, employers, your military duty, if that's applicable, et cetera. So it's an extremely thorough check, and so even a lateral move background check is far greater detail than a reference check in the private sector for employment.
And then they have the physical examination by a physician, and then they have a psychological examination by a psychologist, to ensure that the liability of not only the town, but the county is protected by somebody who is not fit to be a police officer. And trust me, there's a lot of police officers that are out there that are unfit to be police officers. They're hanging on by a thread. And so we really have to compete, and we have to do our work to make sure they're fit for this community.
Yeah. A finalist candidate would first have to successfully go through background, then they would have to, and it doesn't matter the next steps, but then pass medical, which includes substance abuse testing, and then they would have to pass the psych before they get what we would call a final job offer to come to work for the sheriff's office and then potentially be assigned to duty here at the town of Lakeview.
Council have anything else? Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Okay, let's move on down to Kirk Chapman, CIS Risk Management.
Well, I think I just did my thing, didn't I?
Well, that was quick. Let's-
Well, but, I mean, if there's any questions from elected officials, or the committee that I can help and assist with, then I'm available. And I'm happy to give you all my cards after this work session.
And I would encourage the committee to talk to him, as well as myself and the other attorney we've got involved in the situation. And he's a wealth of knowledge and he's got some really good ideas on some things. And like I said, he's helped multiple others. I'll be in contact with him as well. So we've got a lot of folks working on this and looking at this very closely.
So, if they were to take over, there's a lot of open cases, I would imagine, with the town side of it. Do they inherit those?
Yes,
And then to follow up with all of those as well?
yes,
Okay. I
absolutely.
think there's a lot of people going, nothing's gonna get dropped, right?
No,
So,
no. Evidence will be transferred, and that's part of what it's part of some of the logistical issues that we're working through. All of that stuff is gonna be under one umbrella, because you can't have, there is transitional stuff that goes on out there, and Sheriff Taylor's very cognizant of that, and the committee and him are talking about that, how that's gonna work and how that's gonna go. It's mostly just logistics, it's very doable.
Okay, anything else?
no,
I'm going through this pretty quick. Let's go down to C, traffic pattern change. You look in your book, you'll see a map in there.
I think it's definitely in the forecast.
Could be, like this.
It's under, right there, very
I
bad.
think it's second.
Okay, now if you look at this, mainly it was North 12th, that corner there is so narrow that when you meet a vehicle, that one of you's got to stop in order to let the other one by. So it's too narrow. We want to make it a one-way, make it where everything goes down off the highway. You'll go north and then go west on that.
What kind of landmarks do we have around us?
You know,
It's the road that runs right behind the cemetery.
Okay,
Don's
there you go.
Don's
That
Market
helps.
is
Yeah.
cemetery.
Are you,
Going kind of to town from
is
there.
that that little funky?
Yeah.
Okay,
This is,
Yeah.
this is
been
the
on that
down right
one.
here.
Okay.
kind of like a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's way too
You
narrow.
want to make that a one-way street. And I think 10th and 11th also, was that the way it was?
Right.
Also make them one-way. So everybody has to come in off of the highway and go down. But you can go either direction once you hit J Street.
So they would all be going in the same direction, one
That's
way?
the way I see this map, it's got planned. I thought maybe it was just gonna be 12.
So that seems like it could be a flow issue, big
I
time.
was wondering, maybe the middle
If
one.
11th and 12th, or 10th and 11th went from west to east, and then caught up with coming off the highway, running north, and then south, or sorry, back to the west on 12th. Something like that seems like it'd be much better, but this is, I don't know. Has Daryl looked at this at all? I mean, he's not,
We talked about it, and
what'd he say on that?
we had a lot of, him and Dennis talked about it, and Jeff Marshall this morning, I believe. And I don't know what the total conversation was at the time.
So before our 4 o'clock, because it seems like this should be handled in a regular session, not a work session,
Well-
or adoption.
Right,
We can change it, so
Yeah.
can we get their comment or them to be
I
here?
think it's also in the,
Their
And-
your
comment?
session as
Because
well.
one of them,
It
yeah,
is
that's
on-
what I mean, yeah, I mean, just, but I want before that meeting starts for them to either comment to us or
or to be at the meeting, invited to be at the meeting at that time.
Well,
So
Dennis is supposed to be here, so I'll check with
Just having each of those run,
All the same direction, that's
It's
gonna be
not-
a problem.
Yeah, at least maybe the
People come
middle
up
one
North
should go
J.
the other
Yeah, some
direction,
will
up
come
to
up
the
North.
highway, right.
Yeah.
North J
11
should be an entrance to one of those streets, and
11.
then just a short circle around. Nobody should have to go to the highway just to.
That's
Right, 11th Street should run opposite of 12th and 10th.
And Darwin, if that is something you'd like to do, you guys can move to amend the agenda to table that issue, to reschedule it, if that's what you're good with, council's interested in doing, it's
We
right,
should just
consistent.
table it until the 4 o'clock.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
we need more information.
Did you make a motion?
Yeah, I'm in the motion to table this.
Well, we're,
okay. Do I have a
Is it already on the
second?
floor?
It is
It's on the
technically,
4
yeah.
o'clock.
Yeah, so, I mean, 4 o'clock is fine.
4 o'clock.
table.
But are you guys comfortable trying to do it without everybody there at 4 o'clock, or would you rather table it to another meeting where you can have everybody that you want here? Is that, what's your,
Well, I think if there's time for them to be, let's keep it on the 4 o'clock, and then if they can comment on it at 4, then
If Jeff
hopefully
could be,
still deal with it.
yeah, if Jeff could be here to clarify what we need to do, then we could probably.
If we have a break in between, I suggest you just go drive it real quick and look at what feels natural on the street. I'm gonna go all the time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
Well, I was
all
on
the
it
time.
the other day in the van and it was not fun.
Yeah, yeah, I know I've been on it before.
If we have time, though, we should have a little bit of a.
Gee, do we have
they're
any-
not making a motion yet, they're gonna deal with it at
Since it's
the.
already on the
we're
agenda.
tabling this.
Okay, do we have anything else to bring up under the work session?
Are we open for public comments on the sheriff's thing or
Not
not?
during the work section, usually normally
We will.
Regular
yeah, 4
sessions.
o'clock.
If we have nothing else, just kind of real quick, we'll go ahead and adjourn the council work session and come back at 4 PM for regular council meeting.